Welcome to NTD China News. I'm Karen Chang. Thank you for joining us on this New Year's Day. Making headlines this January 1st, 2013. A light show in Shanghai heralds in the new year. Why these protesters in Hong Kong are out in force, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping continues his rhetoric against corruption. To usher in the new year, Shanghai presented a 4D light show along the Huangpu River. Thousands of Shanghai residents and visitors gathered on the riverbank to witness the countdown to New Year. 3D images featuring Shanghai's history and culture were on display on buildings, accompanied by aerial performers and fireworks. The show started 20 minutes before midnight. The countdown to 2013 was surrounded by 2013 Chinese faces. As the numbers dropped, the audience counted and cheered in the new year. Traditionally in China, the new year is celebrated when the lunar calendar ticks over. It's usually sometime between late January and early February. This is only the second time the city of Shanghai has celebrated the new year off the Western calendar. The new year was marked in a very different way in Hong Kong. Thousands of protesters took to the streets. They want this new start of the year to bring a new page for how Hong Kong is ruled under the Chinese regime.
More than 10,000 people in Hong Kong marked the new year with fresh calls for democracy and a leadership change.
Today we marched to demand for the resignation of Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying. He did not come to power through universal suffrage. The people did not authorize him, so he does not listen to the people's voice.
Hong Kong is ruled separately from mainland China as a special administrative region. Since the former British colony returned to Chinese rule in 1997, the Chinese regime has pushed back the time frame for letting the Hong Kong public elect its leaders. Currently, they're appointed by a small group of people and approved by the Chinese Communist Party.
Universal suffrage and the democratic development is not the hope and not the demand for today. We have been asking for more than 20 years. But the first of the day and the year is also a good timing for us to tell the government again that we urge for universal suffrage.
The delay of popular election has fueled anti-China protests in Hong Kong. Critics of new Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying say he is acting as a puppet of the communist regime. Protesters also voiced anger over a national education course that many saw as propaganda from the mainland.
We can also see Leung Chun-ying has many political tasks. He is an underground Communist Party member, and we see signs of Hong Kong becoming more red. Therefore, we hope to protect our next generation, to guard the future of Hong Kong. So we demand for Leung's resignation and fight for a democratic system.
Calls to remove Leung grew in November after he admitted to building illegal structures on his property before he was elected last July. He first tried to cover up the additions, calling into question his integrity. Police say the protest amassed some 17,000 protesters, but the organizer estimate it was closer to 130,000. The government issued a statement today saying it will listen to the opinions of the people.
Chinese Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping is publicly anti-corruption, calling on officials to declare their assets. But Xi's calls for reform have been public record for decades and blocked continuously. Analysts say it's because many within the party have money they don't want to see the light of day.
China's new party chief Xi Jinping continues his official rhetoric against corruption in the mainland, creating new rules against huge payouts to Chinese officials. Chairing a meeting of the Communist Party's Politburo on Monday, Xi stressed that authorities punish corrupt officials because the future of the regime depends on it. The Supreme People's Court and Supreme Procuratorate were on board. On the same day, they issued a document saying that giving an official more than 10,000 yuan, or around $1,600, is a crime. Those who do it will have to face the courts. Analysts say this statement doesn't go far enough.
Unless officials actually disclose their assets, this new government will have nothing to establish its credibility and will not be able to fight corruption.
Getting officials to disclose their assets may be easier said than done. Last November, even the chief of the Communist Party's Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, Wang Qishan, said that any such policy would be hard to implement.
Most of the assets officials have are not obtained legally. Anyone whose actual wealth is discovered faces the wrath of the law. So disclosing assets will either be just a rule that's useless, or if truly enforced, officials would be brought to court. The point is, they won't disclose their assets.
On December 26, Bloomberg Media Group disclosed details on the wealth possessed by the relatives and children of 8 top Communist Party veterans. The 3 families of Wang Zhen, Deng Xiaoping, and Chen Yun controlled or still control state-owned enterprises worth $1.6 trillion. That's more than 1/5 of China's annual economic output. On December 27th, state-run China Youth Daily speculated that it would take at least 20 years before asset disclosure will really happen. Similarly, a law on official asset declaration entered the legislative process in 1994 and is still pending today. In April 2012, police investigated more than 10 people from Guangzhou after they publicly called on retiring Chinese leader Hu Jintao and other officials to declare their assets. Some of those Guangzhou citizens are still missing and have not been seen since.
And coming up after the break, Japan releases a Chinese fishing crew, how Chinese state media has been reporting about the gang rape in India, and these Californian residents soak up Chinese culture on the last day of 2012. And welcome back. A Chinese fishing crew detained by Japan was released on Monday after they agreed to pay a fine of $50,000 for illegal fishing. According to Chinese state-run media Xinhua, Japanese authorities detained the Chinese fishermen on Saturday for illegally coral fishing in Japanese waters off the city of Kagoshima. Chinese boats often venture into Japanese waters close to the disputed Senkaku Islands, despite repeated warnings from the Japanese Coast Guard. Relations between the two countries have been deteriorating, with both claiming sovereignty over the islands in the East China Sea that are rich in oil reserves. Tensions have also triggered several large-scale anti-Japanese protests throughout China. An attempt by China's state-run media to discredit democracy through the recent gang rape in India appears to have backfired. Now, China's internet police are cutting down discussion about the subject.
The recent gang rape inside a New Delhi bus shocked India. It sparked massive protests and calls for better protection of Indian women. The incident was also widely discussed in China. State-run media issued articles like these. This one by Xinhua News Agency is titled "India's Democracy Cannot Protect Women." Another by state-run Beijing Youth Daily says the incident tore through India's democratic system. By linking the gang rape to India's system of government, Chinese state-run media argues that democracy is not something that should be sought after, because it doesn't necessarily offer a better life for the public. That sparked a debate on Chinese internet. Some point out that Indians could at least freely protest on the streets. Local media are also allowed to report on it. Scenes like these, Chinese netizens said, could not be possible in China. This netizen says if a similar attack happened in China, it would have been Chinese officials who were the attackers, and the incident would have been covered up. Some of those discussions are now being silenced on Chinese internet. Indian newspaper The Hindu reported today that a search about the subject on Sina Weibo turns up a page that says the results could not be displayed according to regulations. This usually means the topic is becoming censored by authorities.
Manufacturing in China has continued to grow for the third month in December, according to the latest Purchasing Managers Index. The National Bureau of Statistics, along with the China Federation of Logistics and Purchasing, released the figure today. It came in at 50.6. A rating above 50 indicates manufacturing has expanded rather than contracted. December is the third month the index tipped above 50. Still, some have warned against getting too optimistic. An economist from the China Federation of Logistics and Purchasing said the momentum of China's economic recovery remains quite weak. The PMI is based on several indicators, including inventory levels, production, and new orders. China's export-heavy economy has suffered under the global downturn. Regulators have had to focus on boosting domestic consumption in a bid to prop up the slowing economy. All of us chose different ways to bring in 2013. For a group of audience members in Escondido, California, 2012 ended with a flare of Chinese culture. They had plenty to say after watching the last performance by New York-based Shen Yun Performing Arts. Here's more.
On New Year's Eve, Shen Yun Performing Arts concluded its 5th show in Escondido, California. An enthusiastic audience turned out to celebrate the close of 2012 with Shen Yun. Many were eager to share their opinions after the show.
All the dancers, they just flow across the ground, and they are so graceful and so much color and light on their feet. It's just gorgeous, very, very graceful.
Fascinating, it's thrilling, it's exciting. It just keeps you right at the edge of your seat all the time.
Where they jump and then they go flying off into the sky. I love that.
More in-depth, more cultured, more meaningful dances that actually tell a story.
It's mesmerizing, really. It's the talent and the synchronization. It's just beautiful.
I've been to China 5 times, but I've never ever seen anything as entertaining and as beautiful as this.
I think it's beyond what we ever have seen before.
Undescribable, romantic.
I loved it before, I love it now. I think music is phenomenal.
The music is beautiful. It's very elegant. But the movement of the dancers.
I would say if you want to see something only in a lifetime, this is it. You'll never see anything like this anywhere else.
The festive performance was Shen Yun's final show in the San Diego area for this season. Shows in California continue starting January 2nd, 2013 at Sacramento. Meanwhile, other Shen Yun companies continue to perform in Texas and Canada to packed houses.
And that's all for this broadcast of NTD China News. We hope you've had a great start to 2013. Coming up next, I speak with NTD's China analyst Jason Ma about the unsavory mix of politics and business under the Chinese regime. Stay tuned.